Hi, Jim.
Love Fadden.
Are you happy in this modern world? Like Lady Gaga
Okay.
says, we live in this modern world that is very much non mobile, very much sedentary. Everything is a click away. AC, high, white collar jobs. And you talked before about physical activity structure that we need to incorporate in our daily life, in our daily activity. First, what do you mean by that, and how can we structure that our life, into our lifestyle?
Okay, so there's a couple things there. One is like we said before, the only reason I prefer this as structured activity is because of, like you said, working in AC buildings with typing on keyboards, we really don't get a chance to exercise very much. So we need to actually now deliberately set aside time to meet our physical requirements. So that's
Right.
why I call it structured. We can talk about later on actually to get really successful, you kind of move that from structured into daily activity.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we find the most benefit. But right now, let's just talk about what structured activity is. We've touched on it a little bit. There's three elements to it. I love thinking about things in three. It's easy
Makes
to
it
understand,
easier.
right?
Yeah, makes it
So the
easier
first
too.
one is, it goes by a couple different names: strength training, resistance training, whatever we want to call it, lifting weights, though it doesn't just involve that. And there's like three
Mm-hmm.
different types of resistance training we can do. There's your traditional, go into the gym and barbells and weights and all that stuff. That's
Okay.
one method. Another method, particularly, became when COVID happened, became very big, is using bands, right? So we can use bands to be the resistance for us, or we can just use our own body weight,
Mm.
like calisthenics have done for hundreds of years.
Right.
All of those do achieve the same thing. It's basically to stress the muscle, to cause it to fail, so that when we recover, we're stronger.
So resistance training, that's one.
That's one.
Okay.
The next one is aerobic training.
Mm-hmm.
Now, aerobic training, there's a couple different elements to it. One is the whatever exercise we're doing. We're walking, we're running, we're swimming, we're rowing, we're riding a bike. All of those can be aerobic activities. Playing a game can be playing soccer. All those can be aerobic exercises. So that's one definition.
Right.
What are we going to go do? I love, now, for aerobic in particular, do what you love. Like if you hate doing an activity, don't make that the activity that
It
you're
becomes
gonna
a chore then. Yeah.
schedule. Like for myself, I do not like running. It hurts my knees, it hurts my ankles. I don't like doing it. If you asked me, I had to go run every day, that wouldn't work, right?
Right.
But I love to swim and I like riding bikes, so I do those instead. So first, choose something you like to do, and then after that, we got three other things we got to decide.
Mm-hmm.
So now there is the activity level of that exercise. So
The
the easiest
intensity, you mean?
intensity activity, yes. So
Ah,
let's
okay.
talk about like walking and running because it's easy. Everyone can relate with that. So there's low intensity, long duration. Okay,
Okay.
so that would be like walking, right? We can walk
For
for
hours.
hours and hours at a time,
The
or
same
even a
pace.
light jog, right? When you're in better shape, you can do that for a long period of time. Same with riding a bike, and so there's lots of activities we can do. So that's one modality
Right.
of exercising or doing our cardio. The next one would be medium intensity for a medium duration,
Like
right?
what?
That would be like now we're jogging slightly faster, maybe even if you're in really good shape, entering into a run.
Hmm.
That's when we're not just lazily cycling, we're pushing it now to we're not out of breath, but we're just
Not very
right.
comfortable
So
with
maybe
it.
we can talk, but we're a little bit straining to
Mm.
talk, but we can still do it, right?
Right.
So that you can do for an hour, right? You're not might not be able to do it for 3 hours unless you're like a professional cyclist, but if you're the average person, you can do that for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's medium intensity, and then the next step up would be high intensity.
High
Yeah,
intensity.
that's actually gotten to be pretty fatty right now. A lot
Mm.
of people do
Yeah.
it.
That. What is like
High intensity
hit
interval. Yeah, so HITA, which
HITA?
is
Yeah. What is
high
that?
intensity interval training.
Okay.
And what that involves is now we're not just getting a little out of breath. The goal is to take us into that 95% of our upper heart rate.
Or out
We're
of
going
breath.
all out, right? And you're
Okay.
doing this for short duration. So
Mm-hmm.
usually a HITA workout would look like something like this. We always want to make sure our muscles are warm before we exert ourselves fully. So we would walk or
Mm.
light jog for 5 to 10 minutes till we're nice and warmed up. And at that point, we'd start the HITA. And what that would be, we'll keep it simple. There's 100 different variations of this, but the idea is the same. So let's do like 30 seconds, do a minute interval.
Mm.
For 30 seconds, we'd run as fast as we can for 30 seconds.
High intensity.
High intensity.
Okay.
As fast as you can. Basically, where you feel like if you took one more step at the end of those 30 seconds, you're going to trip and fall down, right? Because you're so tired. Then we stop and we rest for 30 seconds. Resting can be active resting, light walk, or
Not
some
just
people fall over for 15 of those
Trying
seconds and
to
get
catch
back
their
up,
breath.
right? But then you
Okay.
you want to bring it back up. Then you go hard again, right? And you can do that for 8 to 10 reps, and then as you get better, increase it more and more. Now, you don't have to start at 30. For instance, when I started doing HITA,
Yeah. What was it?
I started doing 1 minute intervals. I was doing 15 seconds off, 45 seconds. I mean, 15 seconds on, 45 seconds off.
Okay.
And I gradually increased the intensity.
You always talk
time.
about graduation and terms and physical activity,
Because you gotta
diet,
let yourself
this is
adapt
very
to it,
yes,
right? I
to
mean,
adapt.
because if you can only do that once because you're not in shape enough. So I do 30 seconds, take my 30 seconds off, and then I can't even get to 10 seconds on the second rep. You're not ready for that level of intensity.
Right.
So we got to back it up. So do 15 seconds
Mhm.
and then gradually add to 20 and then 25, right? Progressive. This idea of progressiveness, it's in weight training, we call it progressive overload, but it exists in all physical activity.
Right.
It's this idea that our body will adapt to the demands we give it.
Mm.
So we constantly have to be moving forward. Because if you're, if you're staying still, you're falling behind. You've heard that.
Yes.
Well, in activity, it is. Your body will
The same
adapt.
thing. Mm.
So basically, let's use an example. So let's say right now I'm a beginner and I go and I try to walk 2 miles and I'm exhausted. My feet are sore, my legs are sore. I'm sore the next day. The next day I go and do it, I won't be quite as exhausted. In a week, it's hardly even challenging anymore. Now
Then
you're
you
not getting the
increase.
same benefit from that same. Now you either got to walk a little faster, walk a little further, right?
Right.
You've got to change it because your body is adapting. And that's the great thing because you can constantly vary your workouts.
So you're building up strength
Right.
as you increase the intensity and the duration,
right.
and the modality too.
And then that's the third aspect,
Right.
which is mobility.
Mm.
And basically what that is, it's stretching, mobility, and stabilization work. So that's the third. Now you want to incorporate all three of these.
This is my question here. When you divide them, or physical activity structure divided into, aerobics and strength training and also the HIIT and all of that, do we look at this structure as a structure per group or a modality per group, age group or shape group, or this is what should be applied to all age groups, and then gradually we move into the more intense one?
Okay, well, let's think about the three broad groups we have. We have children.
Right.
Children, 60 minutes activity. And truthfully, don't sweat structure for them. It should be play. It should be moving about, getting them involved.
Just get
in
them
pool,
out there.
Get them in a pool swimming, get them playing on a football field, get them doing something. Make them active 60 minutes a day. That's the recommendation. It's a good one.
Okay.
Plus, the more varied it is, the better their coordination and strength will be. So we want them doing as rich and a diverse amount of activity as we can. That one's pretty straightforward. As they get closer to being adult,
Right.
we can, start looking if they really enjoy something, spending more time doing it,
Yeah,
and
more-
gradually putting them in there. Now,
Okay.
for the rest of us,
Mm.
everyone else thinks, well, the elderly, we need to start making it easy on them. They don't, wrong.
Yeah, we just want to protect the
So
elderly.
here's the general rule, right? Is that we want to do aerobic exercise at medium intensity for about 150 minutes a week.
150.
So
Okay.
if you divide that by 5, say we work out 5 days a week, doing
Okay.
thing, because that way gives us a weekend to have a day off and do some other stuff. That comes about 30 minutes a day of aerobic
That's not
activity.
much.
It's not that hard. Or if we do higher intensity, it's 75 minutes. Now, usually you'll do blending, right? All of this ends up being a blending,
Yeah,
right?
they work together.
So, and then we suggest that you do resistance training 2 to 3 times a week. I'm partial to 3, just because it gets kind of hard to get everything in you need to get done in 2 sessions, and the progress is really slow.
And then you build routine when it's 3.
Yeah, 3
And that's how
just
I
much better
experienced it
progress.
too.
It's not as frustrating.
Mm.
So, And then you say, well, what happened to the mobility work, Jim? Well, actually, often that's done as warm-ups for the other one. So like
I see.
if I'm going to go to a weightlifting session, I spend the first 10 minutes warming up. I involve that
Mm.
with like stretching. And now if you love yoga or you love Pilates, hey, go for it. Because actually Pilates, you can incorporate that resistance
Mm.
training with body weight training, right? So you can mix some of these, but yoga like is more, you traditionally is more viewed as for flexibility.
Hmm.
But
It's also a
actually,
strength
someone that's
activity.
really not the commodification
Oh
yoga
yeah,
you see
what we
today,
see in
where it's
yeah,
no one's even
yoga
hardly sweating and
studios and
no, we're talking like actual
Mm,
hardcore yoga,
mm.
extremely physically demanding, and it would meet the resistance
It's not
training
easy at
thresholds
all.
too,
Right.
right? But it's important to realize the aged need this. It's critical for them.
Mm.
So some weird not weird, some statistics. So um, once elderly or old, so we're
Mm-hmm.
talking post 65,
Mm-hmm.
9 to 11% of the entire population is chronic sarcopenia. That's where the muscle wasting happens.
Mm.
They're no longer properly mobile.
Right.
That's bad enough. So think about that. That's over 10% of the population,
That's
elderly
big.
population, which is the fastest growing population in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
Fertility rates are dropping.
and guess what?
too.
If you end up in a nursing home,
Mm.
those rates go up to 45%,
Oh.
right? So that, and now what's the leading injury cause of death in the world, in the elderly?
What is that?
Falling.
Falling.
And the
Yeah.
ramifications from falling.
Yeah, falling. We
Falling,
hear.
breaking your hip, right?
Yeah, you always hear that like oh, this grandfather fell in the tub,
Yep.
or she was going down the stairs, she fell down, she broke her hip, and
Yep.
but we always hear about this, and then they connect it to something in the middle ear.
No,
That's we can
yeah.
we correct that myth? Can we debunk
it's
that
completely
myth?
debunked. I mean, now, does your inner ear change as you get older? Yes.
Mm.
Okay. It's like, almost anybody who loved roller coasters as a kid, once you get, past 40, the roller coasters aren't quite as fun as they used to be.
Yeah.
But there's some bones in your inner your ear that actually start to calcify some and
Mm.
they don't vibrate as much. So it makes it very uncomfortable to be. It doesn't cause you to fall,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't.
Well,
What causes you to fall
yeah.
is weakness, particularly lower body. So in order to stand upright, there is a group, we always think of our legs as being sort of our thighs and our butt and our hamstrings, but there's actually multiple muscles that help stabilize our hips in particular
The core.
and our core, right? So it's the core and the things, yeah. So when those get weaker and weaker, we lose the ability to stand on one leg.
Mm.
Now that sounds like both easy and hard, right? Like, well, I don't know if I can stand on one leg, a lot of people will say, but actually it's critical because when you slip and fall or you lose your balance, you need to be able to shift all your weight to one leg,
Mm.
right?
Right.
And actually, if you're walking and running correctly, you're actually always going from one leg to the other. Both
You-
legs should
yeah,
be down.
you can't do both at the same
Right,
time. You're
exactly.
not
Well, no,
flying.
you see the elderly shuffle,
Right.
right?
Oh,
Who's
yes.
seen the elderly shuffle?
Yes.
Right, where they're shuffling back and forth their feet. Well, that is
Mm.
because they have either lost confidence because they're so weak or just physically can't do it anymore. They
Right.
can't support their weight. So actually, we're talking about modifying. So the times are the same for the elderly.
Mm.
We modify the intensity and change the exercises based on their limitations.
Mhm.
So one of the best resistance training exercises and balance training exercises for the elderly,
The elderly.
stand on one leg.
Standing on one leg.
So get near a wall, put your hand gently against the wall, start that way, and stand on one leg and gradually take it off. And do that 3 or 4 times a day on each leg, and gradually build the strength up to support yourself on one leg. And then you can progress from there. Then you can start getting in and out of a chair
Right.
without using your hands, right? So we're at this level because
Be conscious also
Right.
of
Now-
your like daily movement.
exactly.
Yeah.
They've even shown as light as taking like a book or a 2-liter bottle of water
Mhm.
and doing arm curls with it can help your arms. Now we're talking in the elderly here,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Who have slipped. Now the best solution for this is to never get to that
Yeah. To
point.
prevent it.
Right, to prevent.
Not-
Prevention
not
is
to
always
get-
better.
Yeah.
So if we're doing this scheduled exercise all the time, we'll never get to the level,
mm.
or only at the very, very end of our lives if something's happened.
Yeah.
But that's why hospital stays and broken are so hard on the elderly because what happens is you to combat the muscle loss
Mm,
and bone loss, you
mm,
have to stay active because your body is trying to shed that, right? Or
right.
it is shedding that. So by staying active, we can blunt that. But then if you get ill and are bedridden or you get sick, there's no stopping that. So what happens is the elderly, once they become bedridden
Mm,
or limited mobility, tend to accelerate that muscle loss,
yeah.
right? So that's why it's so critical for us to stay active.
Stay active. Stay
Yeah.
active is the key, and all the cues that you're giving us here for the elder, also for the young, the adults.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's very attainable. It's not like you have to pay I don't know thousands of dollars to buy a certain
No.
machine, and all these items that they get
Well,
promoted.
well, this actually items promoted brings me to another commodification.
Mm,
Every time people go in the gym, I hear this all the time. Oh, I talked to my trainer and he said I had to take this supplement and this supplement and this supplement,
yeah, that's the
right? In order to
worst.
become supplements are actually optimization tools and they
Mm,
only represent at best 3 or 4% in optimization.
mm.
So what does that mean? Well, it means if you're a beginner, you don't need them. It's that simple. Now, maybe if you had some kind of deficiency, so you've gone to your doctor, you have a deficiency here, then yeah, we will
Yeah,
supplement,
that's another
but we're
story.
supplementing
Yeah.
the deficiency. We're
Mm.
not supplementing you to make you bigger, faster, stronger,
Or to
whatever.
burn
Yeah,
fat
you have to take this
easier.
special, you know, product. And if you take this product, you're going to wake up in a month and you're going to be all better. Doesn't
Yeah,
work that way.
yeah,
Actually, supplements do have a place, but it's only after you've been working out. It's more like when you're intermediate or advanced stage
mm-hmm,
of physical activity. Beginners, eat a solid diet, get your
yeah.
sleep, drink your water, and work out. That's all you need.
Yeah,
You don't need these
it's a
products.
supplement, not a replacement. They
Yeah,
look at it as a replacement because they always want the quick result.
right.
Yeah, speaking of sleep and yeah, the importance of sleep, we were talking earlier about mobility and how the elderly become less mobile
Mhm.
as they are less active in life.
Right.
Also, they sleep less hours.
Yeah.
And in our next episode, we want
Yeah.
to learn more about why and how and what sleep hygiene means in health essentials. Thank you so much, Jim.
It's been a pleasure.